A wise man once said to not throw stones when you live inside a glass house. It's not hard to see what this means literally. Throwing stones at others when you live in a glass house will only serve to break down your own walls. But metaphorically, it means that you should not insult or degrade others when you already have some plainly obvious faults. Donald Trump historically has thrown stones as president and as a candidate. One could even say that it's his favorite thing to do as a candidate. That's why I want to pose the question, to what extent are Trump's daily coronavirus briefings hurting his re-election efforts? I have to say, it hurts him to the extent that with every coronavirus briefing he gives, his house becomes a little more glass. And Donald Trump likely will not stop throwing stones anytime soon, which is to say, it will only make Donald Trump's standing weaker. Now we'll look at this through three main points of emphasis. First, we must understand what is happening with his briefings. Next, we'll look at why specifically his briefings may be hurting him. And finally, we'll examine what it means for the 2020 election. First, any conversation about Donald Trump's coronavirus briefings must first start with an understanding of what these briefings are. According to NBC News, in an article published on March 6th, they are done every day in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, a global panic of genuinely unprecedented proportions that has ground the global economy to a halt and relegated most, if not all of the world, to their homes more often than not. Donald Trump decided that every single day he would give a briefing, a voice of reason coming from the top of the country down, telling everyone it's going to be okay. And he came at it from a position of strength. According to the aforementioned article, at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, he had 63% approval rating of his handling of the virus. 63% is an astronomically high number in today's polarized United States, but for as polarizing a figure as Donald Trump, it's even more of an impressive number. There's historical precedent to this type of effort as well. According to Chicago Tribune, an article published 3 weeks ago, Franklin Delano Roosevelt also encountered some tough times during his administration. He was president for the tail end of the Great Depression, and towards the end of his administration, the United States got plunged into World War II. He gave a once-a-week fireside chat broadcast the entire nation over radio. It helped to soothe the country in very uncertain times, and helped his legacy as one of the greatest presidents of all time. Donald Trump saw himself in these efforts. He has compared COVID-19 pandemic and the ensuing fight to a war, and some analysts have said that we could be in store for another Great Depression thanks to the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. So Donald Trump thought he could be the next FDR. That is not what happened. Instead, his briefings have been very, very bad for his standing as president. According to The Atlantic, an article published on April 27th, Donald Trump has always had a penchant for being a little loose with facts, shall we say. And this has not changed with his daily briefings, as according to the aforementioned Atlantic article, he tells a falsehood once every roughly 2.5 minutes of speaking. This normally isn't that big of an issue for the president, as he can afford to be loose with facts as long as not too many Americans are following up and holding him to account on it. But in an era where not many Americans have much better to do than to watch television, almost all coverage on the pandemic is centered around how Donald Trump's briefings are, more often than not, falsehoods, which means more Americans are seeing that Donald Trump isn't handling this with the transparency that may be necessary. This was made painfully clear with his infamous theory that injecting bleach and disinfectant and UV light into people's bodies could help beat the virus in a matter of days. Within hours, this phrase was routinely being mocked, if not completely dismissed, by medical experts around the world. And it showed that Donald Trump, at least in his briefings, wasn't as serious about this as he needed to be. And we can see that the numbers show that these are very bad news for him. According to The Hill, an article published just yesterday, the approval rating of his handling has fallen down to 49%, a precipitous drop, and also there is more bad news. Donald Trump has picked fights with multiple governors of states about who's handling it better, including Cuomo of New York, Tim Walz of Minnesota, and Michigan's very own Gretchen Whitmer. Donald Trump would like Americans to believe that he's handling it better than any governor. However, according to the aforementioned The Hill article, every single state polled said that their governor was handling it better than the president. All 50. No matter how Donald Trump felt about the governor and no matter how the state was handling it, all states agreed that their governor was doing better. So it's clear that these briefings have been bad for Donald Trump. However, if there has been a silver lining of the past few weeks for Donald Trump, it's that his opponent, presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden, has also not had a great last few weeks. According to the Guardian article published just 7 hours ago, Tara Reade, a former Senate aide to Joe Biden, has alleged that on one occasion, back when she was working for Biden in the Senate, that he sexually assaulted her. Now, for a lot of people, a main reason that Donald Trump is repellent to them is the litany of sexual assault allegations that exist against him. However, if Joe Biden also has a similar claim, Donald Trump can just point to the entire thing as a wash and point to his strong economic record and his younger age as reasons to vote for him in the absence of Joe Biden being able to make the sexual assault argument. It's rare that this happens, but both candidates are entering a defining moment of their presidency. And while Donald Trump's errors on the coronavirus are made clear every day he walks behind that podium, Joe Biden's Tara Reade problem is obscured every day Donald Trump chooses to go behind that podium. Because every day Donald Trump goes behind that podium, he makes his house a little more glassy. And as long as Donald Trump's house is so made of glass, he will have a hard time doing his favorite thing in a campaign, throwing stones. That's why I'm posing the question, to what extent are Trump's daily coronavirus briefings hurting his re-election efforts? I say they're hurting him to the extent that it makes it almost impossible for him to do what he does best, go on attack mode. Thank you.